Good Sunday afternoon. This is Two Loco Radio, Ray Ray.
And this is Chrissy D.
And today we have a very, very talented and special local musician. His name is Chris. He's from the local band Shady Banks. Why don't you say hi?
Hi, everybody. Glad
And
to be here.
he's going to play a few songs for us, and then we'll do a bit of an interview.
Here we go. It's called Dark Side of the Mountain. I'm going to do the lounge version here. Ooh, I grew up playing drums. As a kid, I learned playing drums myself. I never had anybody really teach me. But so growing up in my younger years, I'd say up until I was about 16, 17, I played drums. But then I took a few years not playing any music, not really playing any instruments. And then, I recently had kind of a musical reawakening. I just turned 32 yesterday, just to give you an idea about my age. But a few years ago, I went out west and worked in Tucson, Arizona, and had, a musical awakening and started to learn multiple instruments, how to write music. Just researched a lot of books and pretty self-taught as far as that goes. So I've always been into music. My father was a musician, so I really can't name an age. I've just kind of done it all throughout my life, here and there.
So, how did you, find, the band Shady Banks, and how did you all, form, and what does Shady Banks mean?
Well, first off, it all happened about 2.5 years ago, I'd say. I lived down in Townsend, Tennessee, a little mountain town outside of here. But I lived on a river in a small cabin that was well over 100 years old. But we ended up having community jams in the cabin that I was living in and the cabin next door. Just word of mouth jams, no advertisement. So people, as time went on, months and months went on, we had it every Thursday night, and every Thursday night we'd have more and more people, all dynamics of people, all genres of music. So it was a really cool interaction with other musicians. So from there, a few folks got dead set in coming and playing every week, so that ended up turning into a musical project, and we kind of decided to turn that into a band. The name of it was Sunshine Station, which is another band that plays around here still. So we formed that band, and that's when I really started buckling down and writing my own music. Other people in the band were writing their music as well, so as it turned out, in the end of things, I wanted to do something more on my own rather than being a band that had already incorporated other songwriters and stuff like that. I was trying to push my own music and was having a hard time doing that with a lot of other songwriters in the group. So basically, I cut myself off from them and started my own thing, which was under Shady Banks. We named it Shady Banks. I grew up on a lake in Alabama, and I used to have a joke. I was going to name my band Shady Banks and the Waxahachie River Sludge. And and as I grew older, the Waxahachie River Sludge thing kind of dipped off, and I kind of totally forgot about the name for years. But when I started doing my own project, I wanted to reignite that old time kind of feel. So we named it Shady Banks, and it was ideal for the project for what it was, because we did start writing our music on the river where we were in the cabin, and pretty much progressed from there. It started out with just me and a couple of friends. They were learning to play instruments as well. We were all amateur, people at this point.
Nice.
So then we all learned together. We all progressed together. And we started getting a couple little gigs around towns and, playing here and there. No money involved, just trying to have fun and play some music. And then after a period of that, of getting going, getting the wheels rolling, I started to write so many songs. I had 30, 40 songs accumulated within a year. And I had seasoned myself well enough on a couple of instruments that I felt like I could really write something and really get it down and call other musicians in to help me create an album. And this all started back over probably a year ago. So I had to buckle down, numerous things as musicians go through. You had to get your copyrights, you have to get all that in order before you put anything out or anything like that. So over the winter, this last winter, that's when I did my copyrights. And this spring, I basically went out, because most of the people that played with me starting out, they had busy lives. They weren't into being professional musicians. They were just having fun and stuff. So I went out and found more professional people that had been playing a while, that had done studio work, and basically asked them, I couldn't give them any money or anything. It was just a local project. I'm trying to get some local guys to make a local album. So doing it all myself, the recording, the mastering, engineering, all that, it was pretty basic. I bounced around from people's house to house with a mobile unit, and we recorded in bedrooms and living rooms and garages. And
that's the best way to do things.
Right. And then we came, we put it all together at the end, and put it all together and made a CD. So that's pretty much where we are now. And since the CDs came out, I recorded with 3 other guys on the CD. But now we have 2 extra guys to add on to those 3 that play out live with me. So we even have more instruments than we had on the album when we play these live shows now. So it's progressed. It's been a snowball effect. It started with me playing music on my front porch by myself, and people kept hearing the music and wanting to join in and play with me. And, a couple of years later, we put out a 10-song album that is available worldwide now. So it was a snowball effect, and we just kept it rolling. I mean, we just put our nose to the ground and kept it going until it was done.
There's nothing wrong with that. So where do your musical inspirations come from?
Like I said, my father, he was in a band in Birmingham, Alabama. They were called the Wild Vibrations. But in 1969, they cut a few 45s, a couple of singles. One of them went to number 1 on the Southeastern charts in 69. So they never really made, he told me they never really made any money off of it, but since that song went to number 1, they got plenty of gigs. So they were being called by all kinds of people all over the Southeast to play shows. Eventually they got worked into a couple of bigger shows. They opened up for the Monkees, the Young Rascals, I think,
Nice.
the Zombies. So it was, and then of course musicians can vouch with me here, but he, found his wife and they wanted to have a family, so those musical dreams kind of fizzled off into the dark. But it was still inspired me growing up and seeing him, because he still did kind of reunions. It was a concert series based out of the 60s and 70s that they would call him for to do some older songs. And then, of course, he sang at church. We went to church, and he was in the choir, and he did solo work. So it was still inspirational to see him sing and still have that love of music, even though there was nothing coming in from it. It was all going out. And so, yeah, my father's a huge inspiration. And I was brought up around those types of music and those types of bands like Three Dog Night and CCR and, just good, wholesome kind of songwriting American music. So, yeah, and plus I grew up in Central Alabama, rural Central Alabama, so I had a lot of old country around me all the time. Hank Sr., Conway Twitty, stuff like that. So that was in the back of my mind as well. So I had a kind of a 70s rock and roll thing with some old-time country. And myself, in my teenage years and early 20s, I was definitely into like Nine Inch Nails and Tool and Marilyn Manson and all these people. So that kind of got entered, in the back of my mind as well. So my music, I feel, is just a mix of pretty much everything that I've listened to that I like. I try to just, produce something that's a mix of all, not really put a genre on it, but just do what I feel and keep playing it.
Nice. And what's funny is you mentioned Tool. Tool was one of them bands that without any major radio play or video play, because MTV refused to play them, and all the other ones like VH1 and everything, they went through word of mouth alone and could sell out stadiums like nothing.
Right. I think the big thing with Tool was that they were well seasoned musicians. They knew what they wanted to play, and when they played live shows, it was definitely a top-notch product. You got the same consistency throughout the years. Even now, Tool plays, and it's still an epic performance. They always set the band up different. It's a ever-evolving show. I think that's something that those bands that didn't get a lot of airplay and stuff, as Tool and Nine Inch Nails is the same way. To me, it feels like, they played their earlier stuff on MTV when it was still, videos. But late night, they always got the late night spots, and, they played a couple of their songs that made it here and there. But yeah, I think they just consistently came out with a soulful product that was themselves. They never, they never had a corporate identity come in and tell them what they should do. They just stay true to their game, and I think that's what makes the great bands great, is that they still stay true to their game.
All right. So, I don't know if you've heard of this, but YouTube, which is now owned by Google, has decided that any indie artist that is not a part of a label or whatever, they're going to throw their videos down. As an indie artist and, a local artist, how does that make you feel when, a major network like that just says, no, we're forcing people to pay now?
Yeah, I don't really know the whole thing with YouTube and Google right now. But now I don't know if I understood you correctly. Are they going to start playing independent videos from artists or no, they're going to cut the independent artists out of it?
They're going to cut them out.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then I think that they're stepping backwards as opposed to moving forward to make more freedoms available for independent artists to get them up to scale where they can create a fan base without having a lot of money to back them, without having somebody to tell them what to do and where to play and how to play. I think that we are just getting, as far as the internet goes, we're just getting available, things available to us as independent artists that don't have a lot of money to spend, that have more work ethic than money, is what I guess I'm trying to get at. If you got the time and the incentive to go there and do your own work, I think these bigger places that get endorsements from other companies to play their advertisements, that's where they should make their money. But they should still have a local base thing where independent artists could still play their videos, especially if it's on the internet and it's available to free users without them paying for them. So that's another major thing. If they're going to cut us out and have us pay to play the videos, but people can still watch them for free, is what I don't understand, as far as they're still getting their money from their endorsements, so why are they cutting us out of the game?
Because the big fish always likes to take away the small fish.
Right.
That's the way it is. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but a lot of times you can tell how an artist is and their personality by asking them random questions.
Right. Oh, no. I mean, that was definitely, I didn't know that they were doing that as far as cutting the independent artist thing. That was very new to me, but yeah, that's definitely my feelings upon it, is that it's taking away a freedom that you've already given us.
I'm not 100% on it, but from everything that I'm reading, that's the directions it's looking like. If you're signed to a label, or if you're a big independent label, all right, and you can have your stuff, but if you're not and you're just an indie artist, you're basically screwed. If that is the case, which once again I'm not 100% sure on that, I'm like 95, then that's just wrong. And with that being said, as I'm hearing an airplane in the background, I do apologize. That I'm just very grateful. I'm gonna do a small plug, but this is real, to places like Reverbnation, because if a band in today's society is not on Reverbnation, you're not serious about your music, and you don't want it to be worldwide. I mean, it's simple as that.
Right, right, exactly. With the opportunities that are out there now, with these websites and engines that are helping you to link you to these opportunities that you would not have as an independent artist, just getting on the phone and sending emails. It's hard to get your stuff through to some of these people that have a lot of material to go through all the time. I mean, there's a lot of artists submitting to all these things. So, yes, I'm very thankful for sites. Yes, props go out to Reverb, because I feel that they're even, being in North Carolina, I feel that they're even like a local based company. And they do promote a lot of things on the East Coast. So they're trying to stick it locally, as well as West Coast things. But I like the way that you need to utilize these things because they're location specific, genres. It already groups you with the types of music that you play. So yeah, it gives people a chance to see you and really hear you. If they're already into your kind of music that you play, there's a chance that they're probably going to hear you throughout the radio stations or something like that if you group yourself with these sites. So yes, I think it's a great thing, and yeah, I'm hoping to see more of it. Every year it seems more and more sites become available, more and more free things for artists to get into. And yes, if you're an independent artist, it's very little to get on there and get your stuff on there, and it's a one-time deal. And yeah, it's a great way for you to do some, promotion or put new stuff out or get people to, give you feedback. It's another great thing to hear feedback from people that just hear your music. If you're moving in the right directions, maybe things you need to work on, stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely the social part of it is great as well. It's not just the site, but being connected to fans in different parts of the world and nation.
And I totally agree. And due to our free submission up on a Reverb, we have over 2,000 bands that want to be a featured band for our show. All right, now back to you, Chris. So do you feel your music has evolved from when you started?
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. I think with all songwriting, it just depends on what part of your life you're in, and that definitely reflects on the tone of your music, the writing of your music. So yeah, it's definitely progressed, as in chord structures as well as vocal work and stuff like that. When I first started writing, it was definitely simple songs. I was just learning to play the guitar and write at the same time, so kept it pretty simplified. And this album that we come out with is definitely some of my earlier songs when I first started. So they're more simplified as opposed to some of the ones that I've written recently, the more complex, like I said, with the progressions, because I'm advancing on the instruments as well. So as I advance and learn more about the instruments and chords and scale and stuff, definitely it shows in my writing as well. So yes, definitely over the 2.5 years from what I wrote, the first song I wrote, to one that I just wrote, last week, they're definitely different. They're across the board. The scale is different, different.
And for some reason, the airport doesn't want us to do the interview today.
I tell you what, it's busy up there.
It's never this busy. All right, but anyway, so you said you started out, you sang and you played guitar and everything and music in general, in front of your house and at little places. So did you ever think you would actually perform at any kind of shows?
No, not really. When we first started doing it, it kind of to me it was a fun experience, I guess. Just going out and playing for local people in our little town. They knew who we were. We didn't have to explain ourselves. They already knew what was going on. They knew we were down there in the cabin writing music. So they were really, excited to hear somebody come out of this little town. And numerous people have came out of towns, and there's a couple of people right now that have CDs and are playing out all over the place. But no, I didn't think that it would snowball as fast as it did, as far as going back to when we released the album back this April. when I was standing on that stage and had it was a 5-piece band behind me, coming, like I said, coming from the front porch, playing on my front porch, and then 2 years later having a CD come out, and then standing on a stage, lighted, full sound, 5-piece band, full drummer. It was very humbling. I guess is the way to describe it. I felt very fortunate to be that I have reached that achievement. And yes, I mean, it's a lot of work. Don't. I mean, I feel like I've done my work. Don't get me wrong. It's been hours and hours and hours in front of a computer and traveling around and talking to musicians and recording people. So, yeah, I think that's basically what it boils down to. The more time and effort you put into it, the faster the wheels are going to get spinning, and the more gigs you play, and the more experience you get out on that stage, the better product, the better live product you're going to have. And then once you have a great live show, more and more places are amped to get you in there just because of the public, the audience or whatnot. So yeah, no, at this point, I didn't think that we would be putting out an album that quick, and it snowballed, like I said, so fast. So, but I feel like it was a great achievement, and it's definitely pushed us to do much more. We felt like we've reached a goal, and now we're ready to move on and push it a little further.
All right, one more question. I'm sure you want to, do some more songs for the audience.
Oh, most definitely.
But when it comes to crowds, I mean, are you more in tune to like a smaller, like your friends and family, listening to you, or do you like, the excitement and adrenaline of, a bigger, crowd like at a bar or at a festival, or what's your forte?
I guess my forte is just I would rather have a more calm crowd, that's actually listening to the music, not having to listen over people talking and all that kind of stuff. I know some bars it's just the way that it is. But as opposed, we played a coffee shop just the other night, and it was real nice. We all sat down on bar stools, and it was real laid back. We played real light. Everybody was quiet, so we didn't have to feel like we didn't have to turn the sound way up. I mean, it was just a real relaxing type show. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely enjoy the excitement of being on the big stage with the lights and a lot of people. It's just it seems more intimate when everybody's kind of seated and really focused on the music rather than everything else that's going on, buying drinks and eating food and all that kind of stuff. So I think I would rather, I prefer just the lower key venues rather than, the hundreds of people standing in front of you that might not even know who you are, that really aren't going to pay. They might be there just to drink or have a good meal. They might not even be there to listen to music. So yeah, it's definitely more of an intimate setting when you can look at them eye to eye and be on their level, instead of just being on a stage and having a bunch of noise shooting back at you. So yeah, I guess.
Question?
I have no questions, but I have to say that song was beautiful.
Well, thank you very much.
They all were. I really loved all of them.
Thank you very much. I want to thank y'all for having me on here. Thank you for having me on your show.
Not a problem. We're not done with you yet.
Yeah, right.
All right. So, what would you say is your favorite song that you've done and why?
Oh, favorite song I've done and why? Man, that is a tough question there. I'd have to say that the one I just played is it's like I said, it was the first song I wrote, and I've seen it progress through the years with different people playing it, different instruments behind it. You bring a fiddle and a dobro and a banjo into it, and it sounds a lot different than it did just now. So yeah, it's definitely, like I said, we end most shows with that song because it's almost like an anthem to how it all started. So yeah, I'd say Old Thelma Rose is probably my favorite song.
It was funny you mentioned Townsend before because a couple weeks back we actually had the Jeff Joplin band. I don't know if
Oh yeah, totally.
if you heard about him, but he was talking a lot about Townsend too. So
Yeah.
Townsend's like a famous little town around here.
It is. It's a little musical mecca. I tell you what, there's a lot of people that play down there. A lot of people just play on their front porches. You might not ever hear of them, but there's a lot of talent and a lot of music down there.
Too Local needs to go front porch shopping,
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
and I'm just crazy enough to do it. Believe it or not.
Right, right.
Hope I don't get shot.
You better watch out. Some of them hollers down there. You might want to stay on the main roads. I don't know.
So, why do you do music? Is it for the love, or I mean, is it to bring your message out, or why do you do it?
I think it's a little bit of both of that. I think when it first started out, it was a just kind of a constant burning inside my soul. I just needed to. I just felt music. I'd always been interested in music and bands and everything. So yeah, it was just kind of a really weird aching in the back of my mind that I just wanted to make music. I didn't really know how or what kind of music I was going to make, but I wanted to make some music. I've also been a sous chef before I started doing the trail work, so it's always been a thing to me that food and music can bring different kinds of people together rather than anything else. You go into a restaurant, you've got ethnic groups from all over the place. Nobody cares because they're all eating the same food. You go to a concert, same thing. You go to a festival, there's all kinds of people. It doesn't matter what kind of folks they are, as long as there's good music being played and they're all listening to it. Then yeah, it brings people together, and like you said, it's a great way to get a message out. Definitely, we saw it in the 60s and 70s with world issues. More and more artists bringing their own influence and awareness to things that are going on in the world and the nation and everything. So yes, it's definitely an artery too for people. Not just songwriters, but people who just play instruments. It's still an expression of what they feel, and it is getting that out to other people. So yes, both of those, I'd say.
All right, and I'm going to give you an even harder question now.
Okay.
Well, what does folk music mean to you?
Folk music to me is front porch music. To me, that's really what it boils down to is singer-songwriters, not even singer-songwriters, but even people who play other people's music. I think folk music is just boiling it down to, let's just put it this way, if you unplug everything on stage, you can still play folk music. As opposed to if you play rock and roll without the electricity, it's hard to play rock and roll. I feel like folk music you can play or around a campfire on the back porch, and then as well go on a stage and play it. It's more of a storytelling thing, I guess, as far as that goes as well. Mostly life stories or stories that are location specific. So yeah, I mean, folk music is it's a broad word, I think, to say folk music. But yeah, to me, it's something that you can play on your front porch, and it doesn't make a difference if there's a lot of people around, a lot of instruments, a lot of backup or nothing. It's still folk music. You can sit there and sing it. You don't even have to have an instrument to play folk music, in my opinion. If you can sing and hold a hymn together, then that's folk music.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot again. For the ladies out there, I don't think he's single. Why don't you tell the story behind that, if you don't mind?
No, I'm not single at all. I was out playing. Actually, it was towards the beginning of the project that I had a buddy of mine that lived in Townsend. He'd been coming to the jams. Like I said, we had the jams down there on the cabin next to the river. So folks would come from around Townsend to listen and play and stuff. But this guy would just come to dance pretty much. So but anyway, we got to talking, and we became good friends and all, and it came time for he had a party at his house, so I went over to his house and actually met the love of my life right now, Miss Sarah Gately, sitting right here beside me.
And why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi.
Nope, we're not married or engaged. We're in love. We're in love, that's for sure.
Nothing wrong with
That's
that.
for
You know
sure.
what? That's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
As long as you got that love behind it, that's all that matters.
So to make a long story short, he ended up asking me to play organ at his wedding, and so I ended up doing it, of course. And I guess that's where she really saw me, and we got introduced, I think, finally, as far as proper introduction and all that stuff. And then time went on. Months went by. We didn't really think nothing of it, and it came time for me to play a show up in Townsend. I think her brother's name is Dan. Dan called Sarah and asked if she wanted to come to the show, and I think she agreed, and she came up, and Dan decided to have an after party at his house afterwards. So we ended up going back to Dan's house, and I mean, we just hit it off. We hit it off really quick, and we're going strong. We're going strong, almost 2 years now. So yeah, we're having a good time.
So I have to ask, was that song you played earlier about her?
What song was that?
The one where you said you and your lady are from on the front porch.
Oh, and the Dark Side of the Mountain. No, those songs, most of those songs on that album were written before I even knew who she was. So most of those songs are not nothing to do with her for sure. Because no. A lot of my newer songs, I like I said, I progressed in my music, and I wrote a lot of love songs.
Oh, come on now! You were thinking you were going to find that one, and then when you found that one, you were like, okay, all right, that's for her. But I just didn't know it at the time.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely the emotional feeling that's still inside of me. So yes, she is the one that I love. So she could relate all those songs to her if they're love songs.
All right. So if things go your way, where could you see yourself in 5 years from now? What would make you happy?
Ooh, 5 years from now, I'm not really shooting for much. And in 5 years, I would like to just be playing. I'd like to get some festivals. I think the festival setting is something that I would be really into. I think it would be something that the guys in the band are really into. Rather than touring around and doing single shows, I think what we're going to focus on here, since the album's out, is getting on to some festivals next year and the years to come, and probably just make that, because we all have lives, we all have different jobs. Music is not our number one; it is our number two most of the time. So yeah, we're going to have to, rather than tour and have specific dates and be out on the road all the time, I think we're going to have to do the festival thing and just play, month to month at different places.
And I absolutely love the fact that you're willing to accept, hey, I love to do music, but at the same time, I'd rather do a festival than go on a big tour and be away from everybody.
Right.
Because that life is very hard.
Right, it is very hard, and I don't really want that life. As far as traveling around, I've got a lot of stuff going on here at home. So yeah, it's very hard. And plus, a lot of the band members have kids and families. So I'm definitely not going to ask them to leave their kids and families and tour with me on the road. I would rather them be able to bring their kids and family to the festivals and be with them while they're playing. So that's a huge thing for me, is to keep keep it, a family wholesome thing. I don't want to break anybody off and feel like they're having to do something they don't want to do.
And that's absolutely badass that that you want to go that route, because there's so many that are, chasing money that isn't there and everything else.
Right.
About it. So anybody, that is on their front porch, I normally say that wants to be a musician, but since you were doing the front porch, we'll go back to the front porch, and singing or playing an instrument. What advice would you give to them if they wanted to start a band and do their own thing?
I'd say get very prepared to work hard. There's a lot of bands out there that you can, if you've got a little money, you can make your workload a lot less. But if you're gonna do it on your own and you're on a really tight budget and time schedules and stuff, be prepared to use your free time up sometimes just solely for your music and stay on it. It's definitely like with anything, even if you just spend 5 minutes a day doing it, make sure that you do it every day, because it is a thing that, you can get caught up in so many other things. Just always keep it fresh, always stay working on it, stay on top of it. And, even me, after these years of getting into it, I still get online every day and find a different opportunity, to at least expose my music, get played somewhere or an interview or something. And all of this is free. And a lot of it is no travel. A lot of it is done over the phone or online chats. So yeah. And just, while you're working on your music, keep looking around, use the internet, use your local towns too, to base your stuff out of. Don't get way in over your head and try to push it too far away from where you're at, because get a good local base, and if you got some good songs and some good material and people around your town like it, they will support you, and that will help you in the long run, the bigger steps you try to make. So the advice I got is to start small, but stay focused and work hard at it, and keep looking for opportunities, because that's what it's all about. As far as getting your music out there, there's so many free ways to take advantage of, and not just free ones. I mean, there's some that just cost a little bit of money that can get your music pushed a little further. So, and utilize, just like we were talking earlier about social media. Even like Facebook. I mean, anything that you can get your hands on that you can promote yourself with, do it. And if you got, and if you're working on your music, and like I said, even if you're not up and running and you don't feel like, you don't have the time to get a band or something, you can still get your own material out there just to get feedback and other musicians' feedback, and then that will help you base on what kind of musicians you're looking for to join you in your projects. Like I've said, I've played with probably 12 people now throughout my little few years of playing, and it's just because people hear the music and want to join the project. And so that's a good thing, just to get your material out for people to hear, so you can start building off of that as well.
I'm a fan of you. Well, actually, not even a fan. I believe that if something's your calling, no matter what you try to do around it, you will go back to it, no matter what. Do you believe that, or do you think that things just happen by chance?
I think you control the steps of your destiny, I guess. Your destiny is your destiny no matter what. So, but yeah, you have the opportunity to control certain steps, and I think, motivation is one of those things that kill a lot of people. Especially for artists that come out with, album, or a few albums that they don't think made it to the point that they want it to make it to, and then they eventually just want to shut down because they feel like they're not progressing in that thing. But, there's multiple musicians that we could talk about, that, not all their albums became hits, not all their albums had hits on them. Just pulling one out of my hat, Steve Miller, he's got bukus of albums and tons of songs, but his greatest hits album is only from 3 years. And that's the songs you hear all the time, is just from those 3 years, not counting the other 20 years that he's been making music. So yeah, I think, you control the steps, and that's the thing is, if you love what you're doing as far as music goes, or anything for that matter, but if you love what you're doing, you're going to do it regardless. Like you said, it's going to come back around. If it's a love in your heart, nothing, no matter if it's fan base or sales or anything, is going to deter you from trying to strive for your goal. So yeah, I think that, in a way, yeah, if it's something that is really true to your heart, then yes, it will come back around. If it's not, then it's probably not a good thing that it didn't come back. It's probably a good thing that it didn't come back around, because it wasn't a wholesome, feeling to have. So
I agree. All right, but the main reason why you're here, and other than playing your music and people getting to know you, is they need to find a way to find your stuff. That way, you can get more exposure. Make some money, stuff like that.
Right.
How do they get a hold of you?
We got a couple of sites. We're definitely on Facebook, and it's under Shady Banks Music. And then we have a Reverbnation site, and that's Shady Banks. And from any one of those sites, you can access our music, the music that's on the album, plus a couple more that we've recorded and just put out there. But and the album is available to download. It's on Amazon, iTunes, anything you could possibly think of, it's out there. So, and it's entitled "Love Mountains and Murder." And just to give you a little overview on the album, as far as
Love Mountains and Murder.
Love Mountains and Murder. So just to give you an overview on that, boiling back down to Townsend, is when I lived down there in that cabin, I met a lot of people from around that area and heard a lot of stories, a lot of love stories, a lot of murder stories, a lot of, just different kinds of stories. And living in Townsend, for y'all that don't know, is a town on the side of the Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. So it's a tourist town. Not many people live there, but at certain parts of the year, it is swamped with people. So I think the idea of the album was that a lot of these people come riding through these little, these little small mountain towns, and they don't even realize what's going on around them, of these, these people that live there year long, their whole life. Generations of people have lived there. And they have a story to tell, you know what I'm saying? And it gets overseen a lot because people are just going to see the mountains, or they're going to tube the river, or they're going to play putt-putt in Pigeon Forge or something, So basically it's an explanation of mountain life, and the stories that I've heard, I've tried to relate them into songs and tell their story, and let them know there's stuff going on behind the scenes. It's not just, what you see on the billboards and in your brochures. So basically, that's what it boils down to.
All right, one final question here. Coming from, Alabama and everything, and no, I'm not putting you on the spot. Have you ever seen in anywhere that you lived something as beautiful as the Smoky Mountains and, more things to do in one little area, such as Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg?
Well, I guess I'd have to say the Smoky Mountains are very beautiful. And they are very high on my list personally, just because I like mountains and trees and streams. But, to me, when I went to work out west, I worked for the Park Service and did a lot of trail work out there, and worked, got to work in some pretty nice places as far as Tetons, Grand Canyon, Canyon de Chelly, these beautiful western parks that are different than our mountains and stuff over here. So, I do hold the Smokies parcel, and they are a beautiful place, and it did inspire me music-wise, and I think it inspires a lot of people musically to be in those mountains and feel, it's the oldest mountain range in the world, so they say, some people. So definitely a lot of history there. A lot of people have lived there in and out, and it's a very, very old place, and I think people feel that when they come here, and that's why, people keep coming back. Year after year. I mean, they can go anywhere, but they keep coming to these mountains, I think, because it is a vibe that they get off of them.
Yeah, whether, it's the mountains in general for those that like hiking, and fishing and stuff like that, to those that like adventure down on Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg.
Right. There's a span of of everything. If you're into go karts and stuff, they've got all that. But like you said, if you're in the wilderness, you go right up the road, and there's a 500,000 acres of park. So, yeah, it's a cool, and it's kind of crazy for us because we go over to North Carolina on the other side of the mountain, same mountains, but just the other side. And it's different over there because there's not there's no big highways or interstates coming through there. So their towns are a little different than ours. They're smaller. They don't have as much, as many options, I would say, as our side over here. Like I said, if you have, there's something for everything. We have outlets for shopping, and like I said, trails for hiking. So whichever side you're on, you've got it here. So yeah, I think it's a very diverse place as far as for tourism and for just naturalism for that matter.
I know for us coming from up north and even living out in Jacksonville for a little while, I was born out in Cali. I've never seen nothing like it. At the Strip alone, not including the mountains, and then you add the mountains and everything, I just don't see no place like it anywhere in the United States. But is there any final words you'd like to leave for the audience, or anybody that happened to listen to the show or happens to listen to the show, because they can listen anytime?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank y'all for listening. Check out my music. We'll be coming out with something again pretty shortly. I think I decided just a few days ago I'm going to start my next album, and it's going to be better than the last one. This last one was great. We love it. Don't get me wrong, but we've got more musicians, more instruments, a little different songwriting going on. So be on the lookout. And if any of you people listening know of any opportunities that we were talking about today, as far as gigs in your towns or something, or you want us to come play at your town, give us a shout. We're open online. Like I said, to our Facebook page or Reverb. I mean, you can talk to us directly. So yeah, I mean, we're open to house parties and stuff like that as well. I mean, because we are a folk band, so we can just unplug and pull up in your front yard and play as well. So, but no, thanks for supporting local artists, independent radio. So yeah, thanks for listening, and keep supporting your independent local musicians as always.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on 2 Local Radio, also known as 86.5 Loco on your Spreaker dial. And I can't say enough how grateful we are to have you sit down and, perform for us and just talk with us.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. It was actually interesting for me. Some of the questions you asked, I'd have never thought about the answers to those. So it was definitely an experience.
All right. Well, this is Ray.
And this is Chrissy D.
And see ya. Wouldn't want to be a. God bless. Join us tomorrow night for the Teal Time Jaguar show at 10:15 p.m. Thank you, and have a great weekend, everybody.